All right, let's dive right into today's explainer. We are breaking down a viral, totally unapologetic financial blueprint that makes a pretty bold claim that holding your cash in a traditional bank is actually a guaranteed wealth trap. Today, we're unpacking a highly specific methodology called the Bankless Blueprint, and more specifically, its sovereign vault strategy. It's a really fascinating look at a contrarian wealth-building approach that completely rejects standard financial advice. Our goal here is to dissect exactly what this strategy is all about, why it's predicting a massive economic shift, and how it suggests we should all be preparing. The blueprint kicks things off with a massive red flag. It predicts a catastrophic Black Swan market crash hitting us in exactly 2026. And we're not just talking about a mild recession here. The source material frames this as a once-in-a-lifetime economic reset. By pointing directly to 2026, the strategy creates this ticking clock, basically urging us to wake up and realize that the financial ground beneath our feet is supposedly about to give way. It sets up a high-stakes scenario where time is absolutely of the essence. Look, most of us were taught from day one that a savings account is the ultimate safe haven, right? It's the responsible place to stash your hard-earned cash. But the Bankless Blueprint aggressively flips that idea completely on its head. It actually relabels this exact system as a wealth destruction machine. It argues that the world's largest banks are operating a system designed to slowly drain your net worth, offering these microscopic yields that can just never keep up with the hidden tax of inflation. So you mistakenly believe you're playing it safe, while your money's actual value is just bleeding out. And the stakes they lay out, they are incredibly high. The methodology claims that rising inflation, colliding with this impending 2026 economic reset, is going to guarantee a shocking 90% loss of your purchasing power if you rely purely on traditional cash savings. Now, I don't know about you, but 90% is a number that definitely gets my attention, and definitely not in a good way. It insists that by the time the average person even realizes what's happening, the cash they thought was safe and sound will be worth just a tiny fraction of what it is today. So, why 2026? Well, the core argument here is that history is strictly cyclical. It's on a loop. If you map out the systemic setups from the massive crashes of 1929, 1973, and 2008, the blueprint claims we are staring down the barrel of those exact same warning signs right now, aiming directly for 2026. Think about the over-leveraged systems back in 1929, or the huge debt bubbles in 2008. The theory is that we aren't just facing random market volatility, but a structural pattern. And traditional banking, it's positioned right at the epicenter of this impending collapse. Because the banking system is painted as ground zero, the blueprint urges a massive, immediate shift away from traditional institutions. It depicts the banking system as actively siphoning, or literally stealing, savings away from regular everyday people through hidden mechanics like inflation and terrible yields. It's a really powerful metaphor, insisting that leaving your money in their hands isn't just a passive choice. It's an active, direct threat to your financial survival. Think about where your own savings are sitting right this second. When this supposed global dollar reset hits, will the digital numbers on your bank screen actually protect you? Well, the emphatic answer from the blueprint is no way. Those digits are framed as just mere IOUs in a fragile, over-leveraged system. When the music stops playing, simply having a high number on a bank portal isn't going to translate to actual, tangible wealth or purchasing power. Okay, so what's the alternative? How do you survive this? Enter the vault strategy. This is described as the exact methodology used by the ultra-wealthy to essentially become their own bank. Instead of depositing your money, which remember is technically just lending your money to the bank so they can get rich, you shift your funds into sovereign, anti-bank assets. You stop playing their game entirely, and you build your very own impenetrable financial vault. Now, you might be wondering what exactly makes something an anti-bank asset. The blueprint defines them using 4 distinct characteristics. First off, they are sovereign wealth tools, meaning you have total direct control over them. Second, they exist completely outside the traditional banking system, so if a massive bank goes under, your wealth doesn't sync with it. Third, it claims these specific assets have a historical track record of actually doubling in value during every major economic depression. And lastly, they're described as assets nobody currently owns, but absolutely everyone is going to want when panic sets in. But here's the thing. Escaping the banking system is really only step one. The real secret to avoiding poverty in this new economy supposedly lies in mastering the 9751 rule of compounding. Now, the exact mathematical formula is kept pretty securely under wraps in the source material, which honestly definitely adds to its mystique, but it's emphasized as this rigid, almost mechanical rule. It dictates exactly how your wealth multiplies over time, provided you just stay disciplined outside of the banking system and trust the process. There is a massive psychological barrier to this strategy, however. Compounding feels agonizingly slow in years 1 through 3. It is a painful grind. And this is exactly the window where a supposed 96% of investors just panic and give up. They don't see immediate explosive wealth, they get cold feet, and they abandon the entire plan right before it actually starts working. And what happens to those who quit during that painful 1 to 3 year grind? They almost always run right back to the perceived safety of banks. By doing so, they entirely miss the exact moment wealth growth explodes. There is a very specific numerical threshold you cross, where the math essentially just takes over and does the heavy lifting for you. Once you pass that tipping point, your portfolio reaches a size where you can fundamentally stop worrying about the market altogether. The urgency driving all of this is intense. The blueprint frames this as a window that is rapidly slamming shut, stating the next 6 months will make history. This is your last chance to build generational wealth before the global monetary reset. This isn't pitched as a casual strategy you can just bookmark for next year or get around to when you're less busy. It's framed as an immediate, fleeting opportunity to get ahead of that projected 2026 crash. So, if you're ready to take action, the blueprint lays out a clean, 3-step exit plan to pull your wealth from the traditional system. Step 1, diversify out of cash immediately to stop the bleed of inflation. Step 2, implement the sovereign ledger, which essentially means tracking your wealth through these anti-bank assets rather than your standard checking account. And step 3, officially stop playing the bank's game. You cut the cord on their low yields and rely completely on your own compounding vault. Look, whether you view this blueprint as a dire, undeniable economic warning about a 1929-style crash or just a really fascinating, highly contrarian take on personal finance, it definitely gives us a whole lot to process. The traditional financial rules we've all been taught are being aggressively challenged right here, and it leaves us contemplating one final, absolutely unavoidable question. The system is changing. Are you ready? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this gave you a much clearer lens on the sovereign vault strategy.